After 24 years in the FBI investigating everything from gangs and drug cartels to crimes against children and terrorism, Eric Robinson came away with a perspective that completely changed how he sees human behavior, and he shares it with me in this episode. Welcome to How to Be a Person, a podcast about life, with me, your host, Giuliano Grimaudo. Eric, thanks so much for joining me today. How's it going?
It's going well, Giuliano. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I'm excited for us to chat. For anybody who this might be their first time listening, I specifically try not to read too much about my guests because I'm kind of trying to recreate the experience I had driving Uber for over a decade, where people would just get in my car and we just have these great conversations. But I do still try to pick interesting people. And Eric, you seem like an interesting person.
Well, I'll tell you what, I had my first Uber experience ever yesterday. That was crazy.
That's kind of funny timing.
It is. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so for
that's
me,
that's not why you're having me on, though. Presumably.
No, that is funny though. So for me and for anyone listening who doesn't know you, tell me a little bit about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I spent 24 years as an FBI special agent. Let me go down it, starting in Chicago and then coming to the Cleveland Division, Toledo office. I investigated drug cartels, gangs, public corruption, organized crime, crimes against children, financial crimes, and then national security. I spent 15 years as a SWAT operator during that time as an ancillary job. Firearms instructor, tactical instructor, got to do a lot of amazing things with the FBI. I assume we'll get into some of that. But the unique part of it is I left the Baptist church as a pastor to become an FBI agent. I preached my last sermon Easter 2002. The next Sunday, I was in Quantico at the FBI Academy. And then the Sunday after that, I was preaching at the FBI Academy because they didn't have a chaplain and needed me to fill in. So just easing me into it.
Man, that's funny. So what age were you when you went to the FBI?
32 and a half, coming on 33. And most of the folks in my class were similar. We were a little bit older. There's been a trend. So now the FBI is getting into grabbing younger kids along the way, like late 20s.
Interesting. That's like obviously a huge transition. Like, how did you, where did that come from? You know, I feel like a lot of people are like in their early 30s. They're kind of just doing the thing that they think they're probably going to be doing for the rest of their life, you know?
I mean, I could have preached for another 50 years. Like, it's not heavy lifting. I can be 80 and doing it. But the issue for me was I was not capable of separating myself from my congregation's problems. So when they came to me with normal pastor stuff saying, hey, can we talk about this? It stewed with me. And so that resulted in me having stress-related headaches every single day, every day for 2 years. So I enjoyed what I was doing. We were successful. People's lives are being changed. But I was just thinking, like, either I'm going to choose to make a move or my body will do it for me. And I don't want to find out what that's going to be. And so I've had to find a job with less stress. So I joined the FBI.
And somehow the FBI was less stress. It does not sound like it's less stress.
It was different stress. It didn't matter. Like, obviously you have stress. There's things that are aggravating, things that are hard, things that are traumatic, but it just didn't affect me in the same way at all. The day that I got accepted in the FBI, headache stopped. So
wow.
That was the cue to me that, okay, this is the right choice. Like, I don't have to carry other people's problems, which I shouldn't have been, but I just didn't know. I wasn't smart enough to know what to do.
I think too, sometimes our bodies can communicate things to us that even just goes beyond, like, you know, health related stuff, right? Just meaning like maybe that was just the change that needed to be made, and that was your body's way of, you know, somehow communicating that to you.
It might have been. I really enjoyed ministry. There were a lot of positive things to it. Yeah. And then I got in the FBI and I'm like, nah, this is a better fit. So it's one of those things where I felt right. You know, that girlfriend, oh man, she's fantastic. And then hello, you know, hello, beautiful. And then you find the real love of your life. That's how it went for me. it just felt like this is something I should be doing, even though I had never handled a gun before. Got into that pretty easily.
Yeah, where so obviously like I understand why you made the change, but how did you choose the FBI? Like where did that come from?
I, I knew I needed to make a change, so I applied for two jobs to start out. One I was overqualified for, and they turned me down, and one I was underqualified for, but it kept going. My studies in college and my training was in outreach to Muslims, so I knew Islam. My application was in process. 9/11 hits. I figure that's probably had something to
Mm,
do with why they said, "Oh, okay, let's take a shot on this guy."
yeah, interesting.
And then, of course, if you remember me telling you the cases I worked, and then as soon as I get to Chicago, they put me on a drug squad because they just needed a body. So it was about
Interesting.
15 years before I got back to working counterterrorism.
So what one of the things I'm curious of is obviously you were, a religious person beforehand. Do you still consider yourself to be that way?
Yes, it's different though,
Okay.
and I have really had to consider some of the things that I believed in my practices.
Okay.
And I feel like it's all for the better. It's not, it's not a bad breakup between me and God. I just, a couple of things broke me of some of the traditional conservative Orthodox values.
Okay.
And one was my oldest kid coming out as transgender.
Mm,
And I thought, okay, you know what? Everything that I was believing and people around me told me before is like that's just wrong, but
interesting.
it's not. I so my oldest kid broke me of holding on to values that I thought were right, but really were contrary to showing care and kindness to others.
Mm,
And then on top of that, the years of investigating white supremacists, where I would see their social media posts of I hate these people, death to these people, cute Bible verse, death to
mm,
these people, Bible verse, and then and then I would see
yeah.
on their friends list, you know, here's a somebody from my church, like God. So I those things coming together made me analyze again. What are you believing? What are you following? And what is actually true about this stuff that you grew up in?
Yeah. So how would you like describe like your current state when it comes to like your beliefs about things like that?
Let's not put labels on this, Giuliano. Let's not put labels. I, I fall into this expanding group, and when you go through something, you universalize it, kind of Bader, Bader, Bader Meinhof effect, where now you see it everywhere,
Oh,
and you
okay.
think everybody's about this. I am a deconstructualizing evangelical or
Interesting.
ex-evangelical, the ones who grew up in that conservative belief system and then go, oh my goodness, not only was that harmful to me, I think I was probably doing some harm to others. Let me think about this a little closer.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, well, I appreciate you sharing as much as you shared. I think it's interesting, when you described that your oldest child came out as trans, it was like that. I think is always the like for a lot of people. I feel like that's the moment where you realize, well, wait a second, I raised this person. Like I've been around them. I love them. And they're telling me this thing. Like I can't just keep believing what I believed before. Like you just
Right?
can't. Like how could you? Because it conflicts with everything you know about this person who's such an important part of your life. And um, I think for me, see, I feel like it's really easy for people to like take sides, and that's kind of what it feels like. Is like
It becomes a
before you,
topic. It's a
yeah,
topic, not a person.
exactly. Okay, that's exactly it. Like you talk about this subject and you argue about the subject, and then what you realize, wait a second, there are people.
Here they are.
These are all human beings, and of course, we're talking about this specific subject, but it could be any subject,
Yeah.
politically speaking, where people take sides. You're talking about subjects, but really, the reality is it's all people, and yeah. So that's kind of it's kind of interesting to hear like what you described.
Yeah.
One of the
So
things
for
no, please go ahead.
so for me again, my oldest broke me of holding on to those things, and it became again now it's obviously it's personal.
Yeah.
And what I confronted was, okay, well, let me hold on to this. I believe in God, but I don't see him, so that's faith. I raised this child, I can touch them. And here's the blasphemous part. I'm going to put that kid above God
Mm,
because I know my son.
yeah.
I believe I know God, but
Yeah.
I know. So it has to be most important. And then there's some things that filter down from that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure there's more we can talk about this subject, but one of the things I was curious about as well, and well, I guess to clarify, part of the reason why I'm asking a lot of these questions about your views and religion and stuff like that is because I have somewhat of a similar background. I was raised very religious, and
Mm,
then around like COVID, I kind of like started stepping away from it and started questioning things. And I've very much explored, a lot of different beliefs. And if, am always, and I believe always will be on a journey of just trying to figure out what everything is about. But you go from this like almost like overconfidence, right, in
yep,
what you
yep.
believe. You're like, this is it. Like, of course, this is it. And then you go, oh, wait a second, I don't think I know anything. And then you're
Well,
like open, like, well, now I really don't. I don't think I'll ever know for sure of anything, but I'm excited to kind of just be here and learn.
yeah. So for me, and this may be a phrase that you've heard before, Christians would often do this, quoting scripture to say, we speak the truth in love.
Mm,
And and there's that self-righteousness of like, hey, I'm loving you, and I'm loving you by telling you you're a sinner and going to hell for your values,
yeah.
and that the love is confronting you. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's so hypocritical. It's terrible, it's abusive. So I don't do that anymore. I just love. Look how
Mm,
easy. Oh, I simplified it.
just love.
I
Yep.
just I streamlined it right there. Forget
Yep.
speaking the truth. Just as you said, like I know what's right. I'm positive of it. My gift to you is sharing with you my ultimate knowledge. Like, maybe step off of that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, and it's funny you said that about love because that is exactly how it's portrayed, that it's like,
Yeah.
oh, all of this is being done in love, and you're like, you don't have to, you could just stop doing things in the name of love and just demonstrate love, and we'd
Yeah.
all be good here. Like, you don't need to do things in the name of it. Just do it.
Yeah. The hate the sin, love the sinner
Mm,
lie. So hey,
mm,
I hate I hate everything about you, who you are as an identity. I hate that you love this other person because that's a sin, but I love you. It doesn't it doesn't
doesn't work like
work.
that.
And here I am finally getting to confront it. So, you know, damn, 50 years old, I finally grow up. That's
Mm.
great. At least I did.
It does kind of feel like that, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
I look back on the time before. I kind of call it almost like I was like I woke up,
Yep.
and I think about the time before that, and it does kind of feel like you were just almost like a child,
Yeah.
and then you like grow up, and you're like, wow, I was such a child, just like an actual child, right? When you're an adult, you
Yeah.
look back on when you were a child and decisions you made and the way you thought, and you go like, oh my god, that was so childish. It's literally like
Yeah.
the same. It feels like the same comparison.
Yeah. Look at you. You're bragging that you got to this at a younger age than me. Great. Took me too
Hey,
long,
you
but at
know
least
what's
we
so
got here. We got here. That's fine.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, but it's funny because it's so funny you say that because for me, I actually felt like it was still. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm appreciative that it happened at all, but I also am like, man, I spent the first 30 years of my life thinking like this and making decisions according to that, and now it's like, wow, okay, all right, like I guess now I gotta start over and do these other things um and I don't feel like it worked out any way other than how it was supposed to now, right? But I remember
Yeah.
at the time feeling like, man, I can't believe I lived the first 30 years of my life this way. But yeah, I totally agree that it's like, I'm glad I'm here now. And it's so funny because I feel like so many people are having the exact same realization that
Yes.
you're having. And I
Right.
want to be clear here. I don't believe that this is a political thing. I don't think this is like, oh, conservatives are bad and we need to be on the left instead. And that's the right thing. It's like, no, I think what it is detaching from all of it. Like, stop making it seem like as if it's the right versus the left. It's like, we're all just people. We all just need
Yeah.
to love each other regardless of anything, you know?
I think a lot of it is coming to reckon with what has been controlling in your life, and then how you then amplify that. I
Mm.
had reached out, I retired from the FBI, and so now I'm going to get on Instagram, because before that, I'm not getting on Instagram,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
not having personal stuff, but
Yeah.
I connected with now. Well, she's older than you, I think, probably, but it was a kid when I was pastoring,
Mm.
and is now, I don't know if gay or transgender, but like has
Yeah.
changed from that conservative upbringing. And I reached out and I said, hey, I apologize if anything that I said as when you went to my church was
Yeah.
harmful. And I always try, like, this is still me. This The me that is now was the same then. I just had a few things that I was holding on to. But the church that we started, I told folks, like, look, if God's gonna judge us, He's gonna judge us for being too welcoming to people. Let's err on the side of grace. And that's
Mm.
always been what I felt. And so I would, welcome people, and I would never confront, hey, you shouldn't be gay because you're gonna go to hell for that. In fact, like, I confronted our church, and I remember one sermon preaching, if you think someone's going to hell for being gay, you're absolutely wrong,
Mm.
because they're going to hell for the same reason you are. You're not perfect. So, it's because there is absolutely a hierarchy of sins in
Mm.
evangelical Christianity, and being gay is the worst. Like, that is
Mm.
the number one sin. It just is.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. If you're enjoying the show and want to support, go to howtobeaperson.co and click support the show. The more support the show gets, the more episodes can be produced. So I think one thing I'm really interested in is like, it's funny because what you're saying now kind of mirrors a lot of like my own views,
Yeah.
and just talking about just loving people. But it is kind of funny because that's not what I was expecting of someone who was in the FBI and like saw all of the bad. Right. So
Yeah.
now I'm just kind of curious, like, about that experience. How do you go from where you were to like living or, being in the FBI and having all of those experiences to then being this person who's like, love?
It still is the same, because anytime I'm interacting with a victim, with a witness, with an informant, or a criminal, I have to find a connection with them. And so, like, obviously with the victims, like, now I'm putting on that pastor face, and that's easy to understand. Like, hey, I'm listening. I'm making it safe for them to share. With the informants, I'm making sure they feel safe, that they know I'm going to protect them, not going to put them in a spot that's going to threaten them. And then you have the criminals. And
Mm-hmm.
so, extreme example, uh, I'm going to go arrest a sex offender. Okay. Well, I know from my experience, having interacted with these guys, I don't have to go in and yell at them and tell them they're disgusting. They already know this. Unless they're a sociopath, they already feel horrible about what they do, but they're still driven and they do it anyway. And so now when I come in, the court will judge them.
Mm.
But when I'm talking to them, I am not. And they're really, like, so many times confused. Like, why are you talking to me like I'm a human being? What's going on here? And so I find something to connect with. And one sex offender I'm interviewing, he's telling me about the 13-year-old boy who was a victim that we know of, and he's telling me that he loved the boy. Well, this guy's 27. The kid looked like he was 10, actually, not 13.
Yeah.
And so, okay, I can understand that. I can understand not in the way that he's doing it, but
Mm,
he sincerely thought in what was messed up in his upbringing, his life, his trauma, that he loved the boy
mm,
and he was showing him love and, fulfilling some of his urges too. But I can connect with that. I got
yeah,
kids. I know what it's
yeah,
like to love. And so you're not a monster. You've done monstrous things, but you're a human being. And I can find something to relate to now so that, this isn't much different than when people from my congregation would come to me. The
mm,
difference is they would come to me and say, "Hey, I've done something bad and I need to change my life. Can you help me?" Whereas we had to step in and say, "Hey, we're going to make you repent. We're going to come in and physically turn you around because you're
yeah.
not, you're fully engaged in this."
Interesting. So one of the things I talk about all the time is how I believe that people are good, and I think when we hear about like terrible things that people do, it is hard to maintain that view, right? Because you're
Hmm.
like, how, right? How is it that a good person would do something like this? And I think it's really interesting what you said about humanizing people, right? And even that person was like, "Why are you talking to me like I'm a human being?" And it's kind of like,
Yeah.
"Well, you are a human being, right?"
Right. Right.
Like that's what's really interesting about it is I think it's really easy to put people into camps of like good and evil, and I think when you do that, it means you don't have to treat the evil person like a human being, right? You have the excuse to treat them like dirt, right? Because they're like, oh, they're below. I don't know. It is really interesting. And I see that pattern. And don't get me wrong, like I understand why people feel that way, right? I
Yeah.
get it, right? Some of the
Yeah.
things that other human beings do, you're like, what the hell? Like this is insane. Like that person has to be evil. I get it. Like I genuinely get it. But I also am like, yeah, but I'm also a human being, and I also know like I've made mistakes. I know that I've like, thoughts that I've had. I know of other, it's like everybody does things or thinks things that they maybe wouldn't, if they could go back, wouldn't do it,
Or
And like,
or or wish no one knew about.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And like, so one of the things I'm curious about after hearing that is like, do you have other examples of people? So right, the example you gave, I think, is one of the, you said extreme example. It is an extreme example, and I think it's the one that everyone always points to. It's
Yep.
like, but when someone harms a child in that way, they're like they have to be evil, demonic, terrible. And then the way you're describing is like, and you're not the first person I've heard who's had direct contact with people like this. Is first of all that they don't necessarily like their motivation wasn't to harm the person, and they're almost confused and as if they feel like, well, no, I loved them and this was my way of showing love to them.
Yeah.
And that also at the same time they recognize that other people see it as bad and they feel already
Unacceptable.
terrible enough.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I mean, even cops, but definitely civilians would say, I would just put a bullet in their head. And I think, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I get it. But my job is to bring justice. So I'm going to not come in with that point of view. I'm going to come in like this, and I'm going to get a confession. And that's what's going to be the bullet in the head of like, hey, just
Mm,
going to be part of this system. Let's work it through. But the probably one of the most interesting examples of like how I think explains how your people are good, but then they're doing bad things is
yeah.
I found myself sitting down, let me see, like 12, 13 years after I got into the FBI and left the ministry, sitting down across from another pastor. So he and a few other pastors in the Toledo, Ohio area were involved in a sex trafficking ring where one was pimping out a victim to these other pastors. And
Wow.
I was asked, can you do the post arrest interrogation of this pastor? Probably because, same language.
Yeah.
So I sit down and I'm studying the case. I'm getting to understand it because you got to go to school before this so I can speak with confidence. I'm watching the YouTube videos of his messages in his church, and I'm preparing a very literal
Mm,
come to Jesus message
Yeah.
where I've got Bible verses on repentance and acknowledging your sin and God's grace and all this stuff. And we go in, execute the search warrant, put him in handcuffs, sitting down at the table, and I start explaining who I am, what we've got, and going through some of these scriptural passages. And he goes, "Man, I'll talk to you, but I don't want to bring Jesus into this." He's a pastor. And that was such an indicator of there's a man who brought Jesus into his conversations, and I could watch him preach on Sundays. And then there was a man who had sex with a teenage girl,
Mm,
and they're not the same person. They're compartmentalized. His life was bifurcated so much that
interesting.
he doesn't want to do this. And so he probably, when he preached on Sundays, goes, "Yeah, I am a good man, and I am doing good for the community." And then there were the things that he gave into, which he, somehow rationalized as not quite that bad, like terrible, or maybe he felt awful and then he got over it and now we're back to preaching. And that's, I think, how
Mm,
a lot of people live. We all do things we shouldn't, and we'll rationalize why it's not really quite so heinous.
mm, interesting. Yeah. I'm curious what you believe about the, let's say, the base nature of people, right? So like, I told you, for me, I do feel like people are good, but they also do things that are maybe, hurtful to other people. I don't think that those things have to be mutually exclusive, right? I think you can be a good person and also still do things that are hurtful to other people. And should you do those things? Absolutely not. I wish no one would do those things. I'm not endorsing those things in any way, but I think also to look at the core of a human being. And even the example I always give is just like, if you rewind far enough, like that person was just a baby. Like, I don't believe anyone is evil. I think everyone starts out and they're just a baby. And I think people go through experiences, and sometimes they, become better for it. And sometimes they allow themselves to break apart and fracture and do terrible things afterwards. That is kind of my take on
Yeah.
people. I'm curious, for you, having dealt with people who are, like you mentioned, like you talk about drug cartels, sex offenders, things like that. Like you've seen the worst of people. Like what do you believe about people?
Yeah, it's so hard because I think of how often, if you read stories, you see videos,
Yeah.
people want to help. Like you'll reach out to a stranger, guys giving up kidneys to someone who they don't know, and that's so often what we do. And when you think about being a parent, you think of, how can I instill good attitudes and principles into this child? And I think that's almost all parents. And so there's that. And then there's, then studies that show, like, hey, if you could assault someone of the opposite sex and get away with it with anonymity, would you? Like, and so many people say yes. And then there's people who give into this. But I do feel so much of it, from what I had seen, has been impacted by environment,
Mm,
where the gang members in Chicago, okay, I can understand that. Okay. Maybe you've got a broken home, maybe you don't, but I understand belonging to a group.
yeah.
Okay. That's part of what you're doing. Oh, I understand now that I'm getting more involved, that part of that belonging to a group is safety, because you've watched others die. So you need people supporting you. Okay. Now I understand more that you don't have much money just by the circumstance. So selling these drugs or pimping women is a
Mm,
way to get by. And that's, man, that's all influence. That's all what's around you. So I had a mom and dad. They stayed together. They took me to church. They told me, and not in the bad way where it was like controlling and demanding, but like all of those positive, like, dude, I think there's kernels, there's bacteria, there's a catalyst in your head. And if you get those positives, then okay, now we're moving into that path that you should be going on. Oh, okay, now you're being abused as a child. Now your parents hate each other, and now you're starting to go down the path that's
mm.
activating that dark kernel, perhaps.
Yeah, yeah. No, I can understand that for sure. Well, I think too, what it makes me think about is like our experiences in religion, right? Where like you look back and you go, man, I can't believe I was acting like that. I can't believe I did that thing, right? Um, and it makes me wonder. Well, so part of the reason I think that they're, even despite some of the harmful things to ourselves and also the harm that sometimes we do to other people through religious structures, I think to a certain extent those religious structures fill certain needs for humans, right? Just like you were describing with a gang. And I think because of that, like our needs are really important, right?
Yeah.
And so we find a way to
That's
fill those
that's,
needs.
that's why they're needs. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So
Yeah.
we find a way to fill them. And if we don't have an alternative, that's, we just assume this is the way it's supposed to go. And so you can understand how some people are either through their environment or just through happenstance or their experience stumble their way into fulfilling their needs in like an unhealthy way. And it's not crazy to me to think that just like you and I got to a point where we were like, I don't know if I believe that anymore. I think I
Yeah.
can move past that. Like, it's not that crazy to think that somebody who was filling their needs in like a really bad way couldn't also move on from it as well and recognize that it wasn't a healthy way to fill their needs.
Yeah. And you and I were raised in such a way where, like, it's we're already healthy. So we're just reflecting on some of those, like less. It was very central to my beliefs, but I was still doing good. I was still treating people with kindness. It was one of my highest values.
Mm.
But then there were some other things where, it's kind of like your uncle who's a great guy, but he sometimes tells a racist joke. I didn't tell racist jokes, but like,
Yeah.
like that, we're like, oh no, but he's a good guy. He just doesn't understand. And I feel like, with you and I, okay, yeah, we were doing what's right, but there's some things we just didn't understand. And fortunately, growing up healthy
Mm.
and with the tools and resources that we have had, now we can re-examine and go, oh man, maybe not. And that's so much more advantaged than many of those people that I got to see. My dad used to not argue with me, but when I was younger and I'm in ministry, I would tell him, hey, this is the truth, this is the way it's got to be. He was a Christian,
Yeah.
but he would say, Eric, in practicality, uh, you know, that's a little harder than what you're saying, and you need to understand that the stuff that you're you're sheltered. You're dealing with
Mm.
a homogeneous unit here, people who are like you and just think like you. And then I get out in the FBI and I go, damn it, my dad was right. Like, holy smokes, there's just so much difference in the world of people that I could never imagine when I'm 18, 25, 30 and in
Yeah.
ministry, thinking, oh, okay, well, one day I'm going to be smoking cigars in a parking lot with a 15-year-old prostitute because I'm trying to build rapport with her. But hell, here we are, It, never would have, like, I like to tell jokes. If future me told that, I go, that's funny. That's funny. I don't get the, punchline, but that's funny. But that was me. That was my life. That's me interrogating terrorists where I used to be thinking, oh, okay, I'm going to go sit down with them and try to convince them to follow Jesus. Now I'm sitting down and trying to convince them to confess not their sins, but like, their plans to cause harm. And so it really opened my eyes to, there's a lot more out there.
Interesting. Yeah, and I can totally appreciate that. I feel like, I've had a lot of experiences in my life, and so I feel like I've seen a lot of other parts, of it. But I also always appreciate being able to hear from people who have even more experience with some of these other things that you're talking about. Um, what I'm curious of too now is that, because before I was asking kind of just about religion, spirituality. I think what I'm curious of more is, do you believe in God?
Oh yeah. So long ago, and I'll give you the quick rundown of how it has to be true that there's a God.
Okay.
The universe or existence cannot be infinitely old, because if it is infinitely old, we're not to this point. It's like trying to jump out of a bottomless well. So that means there must be a first mover. There has to be someone who said, here we go, let's do this. You can't, have this expansion and contraction for eternity. There has to be day one.
Hmm.
Because of that, that's a creator. And you can call the creator whatever you want. I would say that the biblical creator, the biblical God, is the closest that we have to understanding humans. I don't think you can have a nebulous, like just a spirit that doesn't have a personality, because you and I have personalities. And if we do, and we can have sentience and we can be decision makers, but that creator doesn't, then we are somehow superior to it.
Hmm.
And I don't think that's possible either. So the notion of being created in God's image, I think, has some substance of,
Hmm.
oh, okay, it's something like us, beings who have a will, who have creativity, who have emotion, all those things God must have at least, and to an extreme, or else now we are superior to that God. From there, I'll listen, I'll debate, I'll talk. There's a lot more to it. And then as far as, Jesus being God, there's a lot there too that I still hold on to. Probably the biggest change for me is, here's the blasphemy when you grew up evangelical is, I do not believe in the inerrancy of Scripture, that there's no errors.
Hmm.
Um, I do believe, however, that is the best example that we may have to understand God. So
Hmm.
there's that.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you're enjoying the show, I think you'll love my book by the same name, How to Be a Person: 100 Gems on Living a Good Life. Available now on Amazon. Yeah, I think well, it's funny because growing up the way that I grew up, and I'm assuming the way you grew up, is you just believed you were right. Like
Yeah.
this is it. This is the truth. This is the reality. Like anyone else who disagrees with me is wrong. So I try not to be dogmatic now, but I also feel like it just seems like an inevitability that anyone, like any reasonable person, would come to the conclusion that ultimately they just don't know, right? Like kind of like what you said. You're like, hey, I can reason up to this point. And I think with the points you made are actually really valid.
Yeah.
Like you can't you assume that well, first of all, the laws of physics, right? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction, right? Like everything has a cause and effect. So it's like if we are the effect, what was the cause? Like what started all of it? Something had to start it. So that's a reasonable conclusion to come to. The same thing about, like you said, like intelligence and personality. You're like, how could that come out of something that didn't have that? Then somehow we would be greater than the thing that doesn't make any sense, right? Like we have to that has to at least be the top limit, right, where we're at. So it's like
Yep.
it's got to be at least like us, but hopefully better, right? But I get so those things are reasonable, right? But then also you're like, but beyond that, I guess I don't really have an answer because it's kind of hard to know. And I think that is like the ultimate end conclusion that anyone can come to. It, like, no matter what you believe, even if someone's like, I don't believe the Bible at all, I don't believe religions at all, even still, like science also is
Mm.
constantly revealing new things. You're constantly learning new things. And so therefore, it doesn't matter whether you are religious or whether you are completely atheist and just 100% believe in whatever science says. Like nobody can say with 100% certainty that they know either way.
Agreed. And yet there are those who do. And, and I feel like now in retrospect, part of that is, it's a safety mechanism. It's a defense mechanism. If I can say I know for sure, that makes me feel more comfortable. That
Yes.
makes me feel better. So
Yes.
I understand that. But the issue is, and I love when I've seen people responding to this, when politicians or boards try to say, well, we're a Christian nation or we're going to have these values. They're like, hey, man, that's great that you have those. Those are for you. You know, you can't tell me I need to follow those. So
Yeah.
if you are using that, I know for certain, to make yourself feel better, that's
Mm.
okay. I think, have some reflection.
Yeah.
But where I had a problem was when I said, and now you must also agree that
Yes.
this is the truth.
Yes. Yeah. That makes so much sense. Um, there was something you said that sparked something. Because you were saying essentially that like if it's okay as like okay, that's what it is. Have you heard of Tony Robbins? He talks about the 6 human needs, and that was kind of what led me down the direction of thinking about religion in that way.
Mm.
And because what he describes them as, and I don't know if he came up with them or whatever, but it's certainty and uncertainty,
Mm-hmm.
significance and connection, growth and contribution. And it's funny because he says like the first four, like the two pairs are essentially opposite of each other,
Mm.
right? You need certainty, you need to know things, but you also need uncertainty, right? You need variety, you need surprise, and then you need significance, right? You need to feel like you're unique, like you're special, but you also need connection and you need love with other people. And so you can't be totally separate from people, right?
Yeah.
In that way. And this is part of the reason why I think that certain things like religion and even politics, especially now.
Oh, it's anything that you can identify with or be in a tribe for.
Yes. But
For
I
me, it
think
was the
religion,
FBI.
what did you
And
say?
that was, I mean, for me, it was the FBI. Like,
Mm.
oh, this is how I identify. This is my identity.
Mm. Yeah, and I think the reason is because, if let's say if these 6 human needs thing is true, then it's like, oh, because when I declare that this is true, now I'm manufacturing certainty, right? I go, oh, this is
Mhm.
something that I can be certain of. And so I totally understand, right, where it comes from. Like in people like, because of course I was raised that way and I believe that myself, but also because when you understand this, you go, oh, interesting. We have this need for certainty. And so therefore, it is not crazy to think that someone could latch onto an idea and be certain of that idea, and that is part of what provides them with certainty in their life. But I think, just like we were saying before, I think that there's healthy ways to fulfill those needs, right? Like certainty and uncertainty and the other ones. Um, but yeah, that's really interesting. What I wanted to talk a little bit more about was your experience in the FBI. How many years did you say? 25 years?
24.
24 years. Is there anything that you feel like any experiences you had that you feel, let me say this, because it was funny, you were describing before about how you like go and how you're talking to people and like how you're talking to informants and things. And I realized that the only thing, like the only like true like glimpse into police work and the FBI and all that stuff that we know is like through TV. Like most
Mm.
people really have no idea what law enforcement is actually doing in day-to-day life. All we know is what TV has shown us. And so we
I,
just believe that that's how it is. Because when you're describing the way you're talking to these people and what you're doing, I'm like, that's not how it would be on a TV show.
Dude, so what I like to give you, this is a glimpse, and this is real. So I'm talking to an informant at Panera Bread. He's sharing with me highly classified national security information, like the stuff that he's telling me, because they're coming from him to me, but that information is highly classified. And then there's a men's Bible study at the table over there, and they have no idea that this is an FBI agent talking to an informant, and he's sharing high value information. And then part of our discussion is him saying to me, hey, is there some way that we can work with my situation? Because although I love being an American, I'm thinking of giving up my citizenship to return to my home country to run for president because I've had enough of the corruption back there. And so we're collaborating on how maybe I can reach out to someone from the CIA who can work with him to get him in a position, because he definitely would be a good leader. And again, then there's that men's Bible study right over there who has no idea that low key we're talking about overthrowing a nation and
Yeah, and somebody
installing.
behind you's eating a broccoli cheddar bread
Yeah,
bowl and like
and that's a day in the life. There you go.
Interesting. So that is what kind of like leads me to like I'm curious of like what are some things that people assume it's like being in the FBI is about, from like what they learn or see on TV and stuff like that, that the reality of it is like different.
So you remember the TV show Quantico
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, and people asked me, hey, is that show realistic? And I'd say, well, I haven't watched it, but I've seen the commercial, and they have the hot chick getting out of the pool. So no, it's not, because I don't run into a lot of hot chicks in the FBI, and the pool was always closed at Quantico, so for repairs. The majority of stuff is, again, if if you did a movie about a regular day in the FBI, it'd be rated R for profanity, because it's just guys yelling at their computer because they can't remember their password and it's not working right. But if you take, okay, I'm going to take the high points out of this 15-month investigation, and I'm going to condense it from all the boring stuff. Like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Culminating in SWAT coming, lining up around the house, guys engaged with lasers on windows, me coming up, busting that front door, and coming back while guys pile in. So now it's cool. Now it's cool. So, I mean, it's just that long-term patience and creativity to work on a long-term enterprise investigation where we can plumb the depths and find the breadth of who's involved and what all are they doing.
Mm. So it's almost like the like TV shows are basically they just removed all of the in between stuff and just showed the exciting
Exactly.
stuff.
Just make it quick, get rid of all that stuff, condense it. And no, but much of what we got to do, I would sit back and go, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Like, I can't
Mm.
believe I'm here doing this. And you forget this. So I had a buddy who went to Princeton, great guy, and he's telling me one day, he's like, oh, I'm on social media and I'm seeing all my Ivy League buddies, and they're doing amazing things. They're doctors and CEOs. And I go, AJ, you're on FBI SWAT team. They all wish they were you. And you forget, you're like, what am I doing? I'm got nothing. Like, oh my gosh, everyone thinks this is awesome.
Yeah.
Accept that. Like, this is cool.
Yeah.
Be amazed.
What are some of the things that you were a part of or that you accomplished in the FBI that you're like particularly proud of?
So I worked 2 cases that were honored with the Attorney General's Award, which is, that's a pretty high honor.
Yeah.
And I was glad to work those. Those were significant, and those are great stories to tell if you want. But really, like the small ones that nobody cares about and don't make headlines, where like talking about that 13-year-old boy and getting to get him justice. I had a long-term financial case that had so many different idiots involved, and then one was a gay realtor who, yeah, I mean, he's very openly gay. So, but it's part of the story that he
Mm.
was very publicly gay, and he had convinced this disabled elderly woman that maybe they would get married someday. So he was like mid 40s at the time. She was like mid 70s and deaf, and she thought they were in love. And he did this to get money out of her that he was using for his gay bar that he was going to open. Like, and made her think that they'd be together. And it got to a point where he had her change her financial advisor to his father, and he went in to the attorney's office with her so that she could sign over power of attorney to him. And
Wow.
she thought that just meant like, hey, if I die, you'll be there to take care of my estate. He
Mm-hmm.
had full power of attorney over everything. I mean, the guy was horrible. And the woman at first was like fighting me because I'm coming in to break up the one time she's ever been in love. And it didn't make sense until I was like, I'm the good guy here. What are you doing? And later I understood. She went on the stand, just obliterated the guy. I don't know why he went to trial. And like the defense, no questions. Like, there's, I mean, if the guy wants to go to trial, the defense attorney has to agree. He's going to give him as much as he wants. But like the defense attorney's like, the hell you want me to do with an old deaf woman that you stole money from, and here's the checks for it? Like,
Yeah.
so I mean, so ones like that where you go like, yeah, that means more.
Mm-hmm.
That's one where you can look in the eyes of people and go, okay, that makes a difference. we'd be on investigations in Chicago where we'd take down 50 some guys from a gang arrest, and like that corner's not even safer now. So bigger headlines, bigger busts, but this one you can see the effect.
Interesting. So you said you were in the FBI for 24 years. When did you would just retire from the FBI?
Just did. Yep. About 5 months ago.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
And so what are you doing now?
I wrote a book.
Tell me about it.
So when you say, oh, all we know is from TV or movies. So my book, which is called Irreverent: From Saving Souls to Chasing Sinners in the FBI, it gives you more of an everyman point of view. Like, this is what goes on. So that long case with all these crazy people involved, I'm gonna get out of the way of like the 2 weeks we had to wait for subpoenas to come back and just get down to the high points. But I write about what it's like for a Baptist pastor to go into the FBI, and that was still me in the FBI, so that thread runs through it. But I was nobody special. And yet the things that we got to do were just remarkable. They're still amazing to me, even though I was the one doing them. I thought this is incredible. So I tell those stories. Usually it's like an investigation, how that came about, and then how it resolved. And I think the stories are pretty good. So it's the kind of book that somebody's going to read and maybe that was amazing, but also, yeah, I think I could have done that too.
Hey, this dude was a pastor. If he could do it, I could do it.
Absolutely.
That's hilarious. Well, that's really cool. So where is it available if people want to read it?
It is available in theory because actually, while we were talking, I just got an email from the FBI to update me on they have to review it first.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm not sharing state secrets and such, but it'll be out in October. And my wife's company, Weaving Influence Press, is the one publishing. I'll be their third author they publish.
Nice.
And they've been promoting authors for 14 years, and then they get to a point where they say, well, I think we can publish too. Like, why are we pressing these people off onto hybrid publishers? Let's do this as well. So I'll be their third, and that'll be out in October.
That's amazing. So do you have like a wait list going or something?
Yeah, if folks want to follow along and look at that, they can go to my website, which is preacher2breacher.com. Yeah, that's good, huh?
So clever. I love it.
That's good.
So you said you're on social now too, though, as well?
Yes. Now, I used to just use Facebook and LinkedIn and everything to like troll bad guys and see what they're up to, but now I can connect. So on Instagram, I am _Eric_Robinson. LinkedIn, put in my name, FBI. You'll see this face.
All right. I love it, man. Well, Eric, this has been a great conversation, man. I appreciate you, sharing your thoughts and answering some of my deeper questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate you. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much. You too. Thanks.
Thanks for being here. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review or share it with someone who'd appreciate it. For everything I have to offer, visit howtobeaperson.co.